What's up guys, Asian here again with another theory crafting video, and today we're just going to be looking at whether Velidreth proc can hit a single enemy more than once. So I've kind of received conflicting information from various people. I've heard that you can hit enemies more than once with a single Velidreth proc, and I've heard that you can only hit an enemy with one spore with Velidreth. So today we're going to kind of be exploring that and figuring this out once and for all, just how many spores can hit a single boss. So kind of the basis of this is because Velidreth spawns 3 orbs and they kind of shoot out in a triangular pattern like that, it is possible to hit a boss with a large hitbox more than once with more than one spore. Which makes Velidreth a very powerful stamina DPS monster helm. But there's also been discussion that you can only hit a boss once ever with a Velidreth proc, and that as soon as one spore hits, if another spore hits the boss, then it's consumed, but it doesn't deal any damage. So we're going to try to test this out on a couple of bosses to see if this is a boss specific thing or if this is a more general thing. So I'm on my main right now. This is my Stam DK, but it also doubles as my tank, so right now I have him kind of spec'd out as a tank. That's just so we can actually survive long enough to do some of these tests. I do have to equip Velidreth. Alright, so now we have Velidreth equipped. I'm using Thunderbugs and Barahas. This is kind of my adventuring set when I have a tank spec out. Just gonna make sure that we're on normal, not vet. That would suck. Alright, so the first boss that I know of that has a large hitbox is the Manticore. So we're going to go over to Sanctum, get up to Manti, and then wail on it a little bit until Velidreth procs. Try to get a couple of procs off, and then we're going to take a look at combat metrics report, see if it lines up. How many times Velidreth has procced versus how many hits we get using Velidreth. Alright, we're in. Alright, let's go kill some trash. A bit of a longer time just because I am not using Grothar, which is normally the monster helm that I choose when I solo stuff. Also, obviously, I'm spec'd as a tank, so while they can't kill me, it's gonna take a long ass time for me to kill them. I could just skip them, but I also do want to build up ultimate so I can stay alive a little bit longer against Manti. Stop that. Alright. Let's run over to Manti.
When the land was young, it fed on you. Those primordial days will return, and I will end cycle growth, natural progress. I will see Nern free.
Glorious serpent, accept this sacred blood, the blood of your courtlings.
There we go. So let's get the Manti to spawn, and we're gonna finally see if Velidreth does hit a boss more than once. Hopefully I won't insta-die. This is not my usual tank setup. Alright, so we did get one proc with one hit. Got to deal with freaking popcorn. Alright, so we saw that all 3 of those spores went through. Oh, how did I survive that? Alright, so I'm just gonna die here. There we go.
None of all was nearly uninhabitable by the likes of you. I will see that it returns to that state.
Alright. Did that go through? There we go. Manticora. Where does... Okay, so here's Velidreth. So we got 4 hits in. Alright, let's do it again, just because while I was running around with Mantiquake, I wasn't really paying attention to whether Velidreth procced at all. Let's try again. This time, okay, so that was 1 proc, and we saw 1 orb hit it. Quake. Alright, so that's another proc. We saw 1 orb, so there were 2 orbs, so we should have 2 hits in. So there it is again. We got the proc right on top of Manti. Oh, probably gonna die. Yep. Okay, so we had 3 procs that time. And I was right up against Manti, and he does have a large hitbox. So in theory, all 3 of them should hit, but we definitely saw 2 of those spores kind of, spread out. I'm just going to confirm that on combat metrics. Yeah, so we had 3 procs, 3 hits, so that's kind of to be expected there. Yeah. Okay, so it seems like on Manti at least, even though we could hit him with all 3 spores, only 1 of them hit him. So let's try a different boss with a equally large hitbox. Let's try St. Olms. St. Olms definitely has a large enough hitbox for potentially all 3 spores to hit. Because while Manti does have a large hitbox, it's not as large as some other bosses. So we're just going to jump into Asylum. Just run straight to the Olms, not even bother with the other 2 bosses. They don't even spawn right away anyways, so we don't have to worry about it. Alright, here we are.
There haven't been pilgrims in some time. I'm afraid you've come away.
This is no test. Set has forsaken us.
Alright. So Olms definitely has a large enough hitbox for us to theoretically hit him more than once, with more than 1 spore. So let's go test this out. For those of you guys who aren't aware of how to activate hard mode on Asylum, you have these 2 buttons here. When you kill one of these 2 bosses, the appropriate button shuts down, so you just have to push these 2 buttons and boom, hard mode activated. Then Olms will spawn. Alright, come at me, big boy. Alright, so we got 1 proc off. I get hit by that. Alright. So we got 2 procs off, and we still only see 1 spore hitting him. And he definitely has a wide enough hitbox. Yeah, so you can see there that time the right spore was the one that hit him instead of the center spore. So he definitely has a wide enough hitbox for that to work. That's proc 4? 4, yeah. Alright, so I'm just gonna die now. Oh, that's odd. So yeah, you can see here that that right spore definitely was on top of his hitbox there. So we're gonna do it again. So we definitely know his hitbox is wide enough for all 3 spores to hit, because on some of those procs the right spore disappeared, not the middle spore. So we think we got 5 or 9. Okay, so it says we had 9 procs, but I wasn't really keeping track because I was commentating. So now I'm going to focus on how many procs am I actually getting. So that's the first proc. When we see 2 spores are still there. Okay, so that was the second proc, and we saw that the second spore, we had 1 spore hit immediately, but then that, same thing there, that's proc 3. So right now I think we're at 4 Velidreth hits. That's 5, 6, so we should be at 6, so I'm going to go ahead and die. We were at 6 or 7 depending on whether I missed proc. Okay, so Velidreth proc there, but I wasn't sure if those other 2 orbs counted. So let's take a look at what comment metrics says. Gonna have to wait for me to respawn before it calculates, I think. Okay, no, it did calculate. So we got 9 procs, 9 hits again. Right, I'm gonna do it one more time. I think I know what's happening here. Okay, so 1. Okay, so we should have 1 hit there. 1 hit from 1 proc. It's 2 hits from 2 procs. Three hits from 3 procs. 4 hits from 4 procs. Yes, that's 4 hits from 4 procs. 6 from 5 procs, so I'm gonna die here. Make sure to face away from him. So we should have 6 on our combat metrics parse. It's either gonna be 6 or 5, so this is kind of... There we go, come on. Is it calculating? Okay. Alright, so we did get 6 hits from 5 procs. So here's what I think is happening, just based on these results. It seems like it's not how wide the boss's hitbox is. So like if you're facing the boss, and you think of the letter T, it doesn't matter how wide that top hat of the T is, it matters how deep and wide. So if you think of the hitbox as an actual box, what matters isn't necessarily the length of the box, or I guess width of the box, but rather the length of the box combined with the width. If a boss is very wide but not very long, then you're only going to get hit with 1 spore. However, if the boss is wide and also very long, so I think Ohms fits that category here, we get 2 spores to hit. So it seems like there is a internal cooldown between when spores hit a boss and when it can be hit by another Velidreth spore from the same person. So because we saw there that 1 spore would hit, it disappear. We would have the 2 other spores kind of do go in their trajectories, and then we saw the second spore disappear about a second or 2 after the first spore disappeared. And that was within the boss's hitbox. So I think that's what's happening. There is an internal cooldown between when spores can hit from an individual person and an individual Velidreth proc. But if the boss is very wide but not very long, like Manticora for instance, then you're only ever going to hit 1 spore is ever going to be in that hitbox during that cooldown period. But if you're going against someone like Ohms, where the boss is wide and also very long, then there is the chance that when that cooldown ends, that second spore is actually still within that hitbox, giving you another hit. So I guess the answer to that is, In most cases, you're only ever going to see one spore hit the boss, but in very rare cases, you might see two spores hit the boss, and that would depend on the boss and specifically how large the hitbox is. Just thinking off the top of my head, the hitboxes for a lot of these bosses, the only boss I can think of that would fit this category would probably be Ohms. None of the bosses in AA really have that big of a hitbox, except maybe Valarial. I would have to go test it out on Valarial specifically to see if Velidreth can hit twice during that cooldown period. AA definitely not. Rocco 2 is not very long. Warrior, no. SO, the only one would be Manti. That's pretty much it. All the other bosses don't really have that big of a hitbox, or they aren't long enough. Let's see, Maw, again, not really. Hoff, maybe the Assembly General, maybe the Assembly General. But even then, I don't think the length of the Assembly General's hitbox is big compared to the width. And then Asylum, obviously, we just tested Ohms. Ohms obviously has the width and the length for Velidreth to potentially hit twice. So I guess, yes, there is a possibility that you can get two spores to hit with Velidreth on a single boss. But just the way the internal cooldown works, it seems highly unlikely that it'll ever happen against any boss except St. Ohms. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys found it informative, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.